Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you try, you still feel stuck in the same place, exhausted, emotionally drained, and like life is slipping through your fingers? It's not your fault. There are invisible forces at work inside your own mind and body that keep you trapped in cycles of stress, self-doubt, and emotional addiction. Today, we're diving deep into 8 powerful truths that could completely transform how you think, feel, and live. So stay with me, because by the end, you'll be ready to rise above the patterns that have been silently running your life. There exists a quiet, invisible thread woven into our daily lives, a thread so subtle, so intricately embedded in our being that we rarely ever notice its presence. It shapes our mornings, influences our conversations, governs our decisions, and even controls how we love and how we suffer. This thread is the unconscious addiction to familiar emotions, those invisible forces that seem to have taken residence deep within the architecture of our biology. What if I told you that the emotions you think you want to get rid of are the very ones your body clings to for a sense of identity? The bitterness you feel when someone disappoints you, the anxiety that greets you like an old friend in the early hours of morning, the guilt that haunts your solitude. These emotional states, no matter how painful, have become part of your internal home. And the body, always craving the known over the unknown, turns these emotions into a form of chemical dependency. This addiction is not metaphorical, it is real, measurable, and deeply physiological. Just as one becomes addicted to substances, so too can one become addicted to the chemical cocktails the body produces in response to specific emotional experiences. When we feel shame, for example, certain neuropeptides are released. If shame becomes a recurring state, our cells adapt to receiving those peptides. The receptors on our cells quite literally demand that emotion again and again. Thus, we unknowingly seek out situations and relationships that evoke those same emotional responses because our body is asking for its fix. There is a strange comfort in what is familiar, even if that familiarity brings suffering. We fall into patterns, not because we enjoy the pain, but because we know how to navigate it. We rehearse the narrative of our struggle because it's the story we've been telling ourselves for years. And in that story, we find identity. We say things like, I've always been anxious. I've never trusted people. I can't change who I am. These statements are not reflections of truth, but confessions of emotional loyalty. We remain loyal to the emotional environments we've lived in, even when they suffocate us. But the body doesn't distinguish between what is helpful and what is harmful. It only registers what is familiar. And so when you try to feel calm, when you try to love without fear, when you try to live without the weight of shame, it feels uncomfortable. Not because it's wrong, but because it's new. And the new is always resisted by the old programs within. To step out of this addiction is not simply about thinking differently. It is about feeling differently on a cellular level. It's about standing still in the discomfort of unfamiliar peace and saying to yourself, I know this feels strange, but this is who I'm becoming. To shift your internal chemistry from fear to love, from stress to serenity, requires repetition, awareness, and immense compassion for yourself. It is a practice of unlearning what the world taught you to feel and returning to what you were born to feel: freedom, joy, connection. But before we can choose those higher emotions, we must confront another truth, one that is perhaps even more difficult to accept. Most of your thoughts are not yours. Not truly. They are echoes of what you heard growing up, reflections of what society projected onto you, imprints of old wounds you never fully addressed. Day after day, you wake up and download the same internal script. You listen to the same mental playlist. I'm not good enough. What if they don't like me? I always mess things up. These thoughts are not born from your soul, they are software running on outdated code. Studies in cognitive psychology reveal that approximately 90–95% of your thoughts today are the same as the ones you had yesterday. And of those, the vast majority are negative, habitual, and unexamined. You are not thinking. You are rehearsing who you've been, rehearsing old fears, rehearsing trauma responses. The mind, like any muscle, prefers efficiency. It prefers to reuse what's already been created rather than expend energy forging something new. And so you live on autopilot. You think you are making choices, but your subconscious mind, the reservoir of all your emotional memories and unconscious beliefs, is actually making them for you. That's why you keep dating the same kind of partner, even when you promise yourself you'll do better next time. That's why you react with anger or silence in the same arguments, even when you know better. You are not broken. You are simply playing out a well-practiced pattern. This is why awareness is the first act of freedom. The moment you begin to observe your thoughts instead of becoming them, you start creating space between stimulus and response. That space is your power. In that space, you are no longer a puppet of your past. You become the conscious author of your future. But it requires courage, because to observe your mind is to realize how often it lies to you. It tells you you're not ready. It tells you you're alone. It tells you you've failed too many times to try again. But those are not truths. They are neural grooves carved out by years of repetition. And just as a river can be redirected, so too can the mind. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, proves with intentional thought, consistent affirmation, and emotional practice, you can literally change the shape and function of your brain. But you must be vigilant. You must become a guardian of your own inner world. Every time you catch yourself thinking a limiting thought and choose a new one, you are breaking the addiction. Every time you feel the old anxiety rise and respond with breath, presence, and softness, you are healing. Every time you pause before reacting and ask yourself, is this who I want to be? You are reprogramming your identity. This work is not instant. It is not flashy. It is sacred. It is the slow, holy unraveling of who you are not, so that who you truly are can finally take root and rise. The past, if left unexamined, becomes more than memory. It becomes identity. This is the paradox of human consciousness. Though we are capable of imagining the infinite, we often live inside the cage of what has already been. The brain, a masterful recorder of emotional and sensory experiences, is not just a tool for thought. It is an archive. And if we are not careful, we become prisoners of its archive. We begin to live as if the past were still happening, as if the pain we felt years ago is still the truth of who we are. Every time we recall a moment of betrayal, humiliation, or heartbreak, we do not simply remember it. We relive. The brain fires in the same patterns. The body secretes the same stress hormones, and the nervous system responds as if the threat were present and real. You may be sitting safely in your room, but your body believes you are still in that childhood home, still in that argument, still in that moment where you felt unseen or unloved. This is not imagination, it is biology. And so you carry the past, not in thought alone, but in muscle memory, in the tilt of your shoulders, in the clench of your jaw, in the unspoken narratives that echo in your silence. Herein lies the greatest illusion, that because something happened, it must continue to define you. But life is not meant to be a replay. You are not designed to live in rewind. The past was a teacher, not a master. Yet for many, the past has become a daily destination. It determines how they love, how they trust, how they dream or don't. It builds a wall between them and possibility. A wall, not made of bricks, but of assumptions. This always happens to me. I'm not meant for happiness. I'll never be enough. Such beliefs are not truths. They are habits. The mind memorizes the emotions of experience and then begins to interpret the present through the same emotional lens. So when something new arrives, a kind word, an opportunity, a person who sees your light, the mind scans its library and says, "Be careful. Remember what happened last time." And just like that, you shrink, you doubt, you sabotage. To change, you must do something that goes against your programming. You must begin to feel the future. You must become emotionally intimate with what has not yet happened. This is not denial of the past. It is devotion to possibility. And that is where the power of now comes in. The only moment you can rewrite the narrative is this one, not tomorrow, not when someone finally apologizes, not when the pain disappears. Now, the now is not merely a bridge between past and future. It is the womb of rebirth. Everything you have ever become happened in a now, and everything you long to become also begins in a now. But most people pass through now unconsciously, dragging their past behind them like a tattered suitcase, and wondering why the world feels heavy. To be truly present requires tremendous courage, because the present moment asks you to let go of the familiar. It invites you into the unknown. It is the invitation to stop performing who you think you should be, and start becoming who you truly are. But this terrifies the ego. The ego thrives on certainty, identity, predictability. It wants to know who it is, even if who it is wounded, limited, or afraid. So the moment you say, "I will no longer think this way, feel this way, or live this way," the ego panics. Who are we then? It cries. And that, dear soul, is the question that awakens transformation. The truth is, change is not something that happens to you. It is something you become. And becoming is not a destination. It is a decision, made over and over again, in the quiet spaces of your day. It is choosing not to react from your pain, but to respond from your purpose. It is noticing the old thoughts as they rise. I'm not lovable. I'm always overlooked. Nothing ever works for me. And refusing to feed them. It is standing in the storm of your old self and saying, "I choose peace. I choose presence. I choose to believe in a future I cannot yet see, but deeply feel." And yes, it will feel unnatural at first. The body will resist. The mind will doubt, because the old emotions still linger like ghosts in familiar rooms. But remember, discomfort is not a sign you're failing. It is a sign you're evolving. You are rewiring thousands of neurological connections, changing hormonal responses, and disrupting decades of programming. That takes energy, that takes love, that takes time. Each time you pause and breathe deeply when your nervous system wants to react, you're teaching your body a new way to be. Each time you speak kindly to yourself in the mirror instead of criticizing your reflection, you're rewriting the language of your mind. Each time you choose to sit in silence rather than seek distraction, you're stepping out of the maze of your past and entering the open field of now. The present moment is not always calm or easy. Sometimes it reveals the grief you've buried,
the shame you've ignored, the rage you've silenced, but it also holds your healing, because here, in this exact moment, you have access to something extraordinary choice. You can choose to forgive. You can choose to let go. You can choose to imagine a different version of you, one who is unbound by the old story and deeply aligned with her own becoming. You are not here to relive your pain. You are here to transcend it. You are not here to repeat the same patterns. You are here to break them with grace. And every time you bring your awareness back to this breath, this heartbeat, this sacred now, you remember who you truly are. Let the past be what it was. Let it teach you, not trap you. And let the present be what it is, the most powerful portal to your freedom, your healing, and your future self.
There's a quiet revolution waiting to happen inside you, a profound shift that begins with the simple but radical understanding that you are not broken. The culture around us thrives on the idea of fixing, of healing what is supposedly wrong, but this narrative can trap us in a perpetual state of lack. To believe you are broken is to believe you are incomplete, flawed, or unworthy. Yet the truth is the exact opposite. You are whole, entire, and enough. The challenge is that for so long you have lived under the shadow of comparison and judgment that this truth feels distant, almost like a myth whispered to others but never fully claimed for yourself. You are not behind in life. You are exactly where you are meant to be for this moment in your journey. This is a difficult concept to hold when the world constantly measures success by external standards, titles, possessions, accolades, but your inner landscape moves on a different timeline altogether. Growth is not linear. Healing is not immediate. Becoming who you truly are requires patience with the process, compassion for your struggles, and faith in the unseen. Each time you choose calm over chaos, patience over pressure, and love over fear, you are making a revolutionary statement to your nervous system and to the world. I am reclaiming my power. You are not a victim of circumstance or history. You are a creator of your present and your future. This empowerment is not grandiose or loud, it is quiet and persistent. It is the small acts of self-kindness, the gentle boundary set with a difficult person, the refusal to engage in self-criticism. These moments accumulate like drops of water, carving a new river through the landscape of your life. It is vital to understand that empowerment begins within. External validation can be fleeting and unreliable, but the voice inside, the one that whispers truth, hope, and possibility, is your steady compass. When you tune into that voice, you begin to dismantle the old narratives that have kept you small. You rewrite your story not with words alone, but through your actions, your choices, and your consistent attention to your own well-being. But there is another layer to this transformation, one that often goes unnoticed: the way your relationships mirror your inner world. It is an ancient truth that what we resist persists, and this is profoundly evident in the patterns we attract. If you find yourself repeatedly drawn to toxic or draining relationships, it is not mere coincidence. These connections serve as reflections, mirrors held up to parts of yourself that are seeking attention, healing, or acceptance. Ask yourself, what energy am I projecting? What beliefs about love, worth, and safety am I carrying that are shaping my choice? Relationships do not just happen to us, they are co-created by the vibration we emit. When you are in conflict internally, the external world echoes that conflict. When your boundaries are unclear or non-existent, relationships will test those limits relentlessly. If you feel unseen or unheard, it is often because you have not yet spoken those truths to yourself or others. This is not about blame or shame. It is about awakening, recognizing that your relationships are a classroom can be the most liberating step you take. You deserve deep, safe, soul-nourishing love, love that does not drain your spirit but replenishes it. But that love begins first with how you treat yourself. How do you talk to yourself when no one is listening? How do you care for your emotional needs? How do you honor your boundaries? Setting boundaries is not selfish. It is an act of radical self-respect. It teaches others how to treat you, and more importantly, teaches your nervous system what safety feels like. Safety is the foundation of love. Without it, the heart remains guarded, the spirit defensive, and the connection superficial. The journey toward healthier relationships requires courage to face uncomfortable truths within. It means letting go of old roles you have played, whether the caretaker, the fixer, the pleaser, and stepping into your authentic self. It means saying no without guilt, asking for what you need, and being willing to walk away from connections that no longer serve your highest good. Healing your relationship with yourself ripples outward. When you cultivate self-love, compassion, and integrity, your relationships begin to change organically. You attract people who reflect your newfound strength and clarity. You communicate with honesty and grace. You forgive not to condone harm, but to free yourself from the chains of resentment. Love, in its purest form, is not conditional. It is not based on perfection or achievement. It is a radical acceptance of both your light and your shadow. When you embrace this truth within, you begin to see it in others. The quality of your relationships improves, not because people change, but because your perspective and energy shift. Remember, you are worthy of love, not because of what you do or how you look, but because of who you are at your core. This understanding softens the harsh judgments you carry and opens the door to profound intimacy with yourself and others. The path is not without challenge. There will be moments of doubt, loneliness, and fear, but within those moments lie the seeds of transformation. Every step you take toward honoring your true self is a step toward the freedom you seek. The power to rewrite your story is already within you, waiting to be claimed. It is a quiet tragedy of modern life that many wake each morning into a world they did not consciously create. They rise not with purpose, but with programming. The same thoughts lead to the same choices to the same behaviors, and those behaviors reinforce the very emotions they wish to escape. This cycle, though invisible, is deeply real, and it is often mistaken for personality or fate. But nothing could be further from the truth. Who you are in this moment is not the final version of you. It is a reflection of your most practiced thoughts, the emotional patterns you've rehearsed, and the beliefs you've allowed to root deep within your psyche. The mind, remarkable and malleable, is not fixed. It is not a closed system bound by the events of your past. It is responsive, regenerative, and above all trainable. Yet, like any living system, it adapts to repetition. So if your mornings begin with worry, if your days are colored by resentment, if your nights are swallowed by regret, then your mind has learned to favor those states, and your body, which listens to your thoughts like commandments, begins to reflect that emotional script. This is the beginning of unconscious living. When your body becomes the mind, it remembers how to feel anxious without you needing to think a stressful thought. It knows how to tense, how to contract, how to guard, because that has become its default. And so even when there is peace in the room,
Your system still trembles in anticipation of pain. You begin to live not from the present, but from the echo of the past, a phantom reality that haunts your now with memories dressed as instinct. To break this cycle is to interrupt the momentum of the familiar. It is to catch yourself in mid-thought and ask, is this who I want to be, or just who I've been? Such a question, though deceptively simple, is a portal to transformation. For when you stop believing that every thought you think is true, when you create distance between your awareness and your programming, you step into the sacred space of choice. And from that space, new futures are born. You cannot think greater than how you feel unless you become aware of how you feel. This is the invitation to become the observer of your inner world, to gently but consistently notice the emotions that tug at your attention, and instead of reacting, to reflect, what is this sadness trying to tell me? What need have I ignored? What truth have I silenced? It is not about banishing negative emotions. It is about understanding them. Emotions are not the enemy. They are the language of the soul. They are messengers, not punishment. When you stop running from discomfort and instead sit with it, when you listen with curiosity rather than judgment, you reclaim your power. You learn that no emotion, however dark, is permanent. It rises, peaks, and falls like a wave, and beneath it, always, is stillness. This stillness is not passive. It is the ground of your becoming. From stillness, you can create intention. From intention, you can design new habits. And with new habits, you begin to change not only your brain, but your entire way of being. But this transformation is not merely cognitive. It must become physical. You must train your body to feel the emotions of a future that has not yet arrived. If you want to live with joy, you cannot wait until joy visits you. You must practice. If you want to feel loved, you must embody the energy of love before another gives it to you. This is not pretense. It is rehearsal. The body learns through repetition, so give it something new to learn. Teach it gratitude. Teach it peace. Teach it how to relax in the absence of Christ. And when your body rebels, when it clings to old feelings, old fears, old reactions, don't fight it. Breathe. Remind it gently. This is no longer who I am. With each breath, you are rewiring. With each choice, you are redefining. You are not just breaking habits, you are becoming conscious. Now consider this. Your outer world is often a reflection of your inner state. If your relationships are chaotic, if your work drains you, if your days feel colorless, it may not be the world that must change first. It may be. When you shift your energy, your perception changes, and what you once tolerated becomes intolerable. What you once thought impossible becomes inevitable. But none of this is sustainable if your environment constantly pulls you back into your past self. It is said that you become the average of the people you spend the most time with, not just in behavior, but in emotional tone, in dreams permitted, in energy allowed. So ask yourself, do the people around me feed my expansion or my stagnation? Do they honor my truth or require me to hide it? Sometimes healing means walking away, not with anger, but with clarity. It means choosing solitude over the noise of unconscious companionship. Yet even in solitude, you are not alone. You are with yourself, and that is the most important relationship you will ever cultivate. How do you speak to yourself when no one is listening? Do you nurture your dreams or belittle them before they've taken form? Do you celebrate your efforts or only shame your shortcomings. The voice inside becomes your reality. Make it a voice of love. You are not here to repeat what has been done. You are here to birth something new into existence through your thoughts, your presence, your healing. Every moment is a canvas, every breath a chance to begin again. And yes, there will be resistance. The old self will not disappear quietly. It will try to lure you back with the familiar ache of your past. But you are not obligated to answer. Step forward, not in perfection, but in persistence. Step forward, even when it feels uncertain, especially then, because uncertainty is not the absence of the path. It is the space where the new path is forming, and you, with your courage and your consciousness, are the one who is forming it. Let the old self dissolve not through force, but through truth. You are not who you were last year, not even who you were this morning. You are becoming, you are arriving, you are remembering who you were. You were before the world told you who to be, and that remembering is the beginning of everything. Here's a psychological tip. Start each morning with 5 minutes of stillness. Spade. Kind words to yourself out loud. Your brain is listening. Your heart is listening. And your future self is depending on it. In your relationships, make this your new standard. If it costs your peace, it's too expensive. Protect your energy like your life depends on it. Because it does. Now I want to hear from you. Which one of these invisible forces resonated with you the most? What have you been addicted to without even realizing it? Let's talk about it in the comments. If this message stirred something in you, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps us keep growing this powerful community. And one more thing, what topics do you want me to dive into next? Whether it's emotional healing, love, confidence, or life purpose, this channel is for you. Let's grow together. Subscribe now. Hit that bell icon so you never miss a truth that could change your life. And remember, you were never meant to stay stuck. You were born to rise.